Welcome to our YouTube channel, a place where we share stories full of human values, love, and profound life lessons. In this world, each story has the power to change lives, transform the way we perceive and treat those around us. Specifically, we want to bring you stories about compassion, justice, and valuable lessons that each of us can learn and apply in our lives. One of the remarkable stories we want to share today is the story of Lazarus and the rich man, a story full of human compassion, reflecting the contrast between a life of wealth and poverty, while also serving as a reminder to care for and share with others. The story of Lazarus and the rich man. The story of Lazarus and the rich man is one of the most well-known stories in the Bible, telling of a wealthy man who lived in luxury and a poor man named Lazarus. Throughout his life, the rich man never paid attention to Lazarus' suffering, even though they lived next door to each other. Lazarus, despite his poverty, lived with patience and faith, while the rich man lived solely for himself and paid no mind to those around him. In a small town in a far-off land, there lived a very rich man. He lived in a large house, built with precious materials, with a vast garden full of lush trees, decorative rockeries, and beautiful paved paths. Every evening, the rich man would sit under a large tree in the garden, enjoying sumptuous meals brought by his servants. The dishes were always made from the finest ingredients, from premium beef to creatively crafted desserts. He wore expensive clothes, frequently hosted lavish parties, and only mingled with those of high social status. His life was a symbol of wealth, prosperity, and comfort, where all worries seemed to vanish. Each day passed in satisfaction, with no thought for the poor people around him. Just outside the gates of the rich man's house, in a dark corner of the street, there lived a poor man named Lazarus. He was destitute, living in poverty and hardship. His house was a modest hut with a torn roof and broken walls. Lazarus could only eat what passers-by left behind, sometimes a piece of stale bread or leftover food from the rich man's table. His frail body was covered in sores from disease and hunger. The rich man's dogs would often come near Lazarus, licking the sores on his body, while he could only look up at the sky, praying for God's mercy. Each day, he hoped for a scrap of food from the rich man's feasts, but the rich man never paid him any attention. As time passed, Lazarus and the rich man never communicated, even though they lived close to each other. The rich man never cared about Lazarus' suffering. Lazarus had no one to help him, not even a small amount of compassion. Meanwhile, Lazarus grew weaker, his health deteriorating. Despite the hardships, he never complained or cried out. He lived in acceptance, waiting for a miracle from God. Their lives continued this way for years, until one day, the inevitable truth arrived. One day, Lazarus died. No one noticed his death. No one cared about the passing of a poor man like him. There were no ceremonies, no grave. But angels, God's messengers, came and took Lazarus to eternal rest in Abraham's bosom, a place known for peace and blessing, where faithful and pure souls are received and rest. At the same time, the rich man also passed away. He was buried in a lavish tomb, with grand ceremonies, and many people came to mourn his passing. Officials, friends, and family gathered to send him off, and his tomb was adorned with expensive statues and flowers. But to Lazarus, no one cared about this loss. No one knew that an anonymous soul was being received into a peaceful place. After death, the rich man woke up and realized he was no longer in the world of wealth and luxury. Instead, he found himself trapped in a dark and barren place, where flames roared from every side and the burning sensation was indescribable. He could not breathe, only feeling intense thirst. His sweat and tears mixed together, but no one was there to help. He felt completely hopeless, without any comfort. In the midst of his pain, the rich man realized one thing: he was no longer in his old world, but in a completely different place. He saw a familiar figure from afar, Lazarus, whom he had ignored during his life. Lazarus was sitting in Abraham's bosom, where there was warm light and peace. The rich man shouted, "Lazarus! Please help me! Let Lazarus dip the tip of his finger in water and bring me a little to quench my thirst." Lazarus looked at the rich man and replied gently but firmly. When I was alive, I had to endure suffering that no one understood. I had to endure hunger, disease, and abandonment. But now I have been received by God and at rest, while you are suffering the consequences of your selfish life. There is a great chasm between us that cannot be crossed, and no one can help you. The rich man, unable to bear it any longer, pleaded. Then please send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. They live like I did, ignoring the poor. Send Lazarus to warn them, so they don't end up here with me. Abraham answered seriously. They have Moses and the prophets. If they do not listen to them, then even if someone rises from the dead, they will not believe. The rich man had nothing more to say, and a deep sense of regret filled his soul. He realized that the mistakes he made in life had led to this outcome. He had lived for himself, without caring for the poor around him, and now he had to pay the price for his selfishness. This story is not only a lesson in justice and compassion but also a reminder of the need to live a meaningful life, to share, and help others. Material wealth may be temporary, but kindness and care for those less fortunate will last forever, whether in this life or the next. The story of Lazarus and the rich man is a powerful reminder of the importance of living a life of compassion and understanding. The rich man, despite living in wealth, never cared for those in need around him. In contrast, Lazarus, although enduring poverty, disease, and hunger, maintained his patience and faith, waiting for help from God. This story also emphasizes that life is not just about material wealth but how we treat others. Wealth, property, and possessions can be lost at any moment, but kindness, concern, and sharing with those less fortunate will always endure. These are the true values, transcending time and space. In our society, where there is a stark contrast between wealth and poverty, this story reminds us that not everyone who has wealth is happy, and not everyone who is poor will suffer forever. True peace and happiness come from a soul that shares, helps, and lives kindly with others, regardless of who they are. In both this world and the next, care and love are the things that will endure forever.